25 drivers, 16 nationalities, 3 champions, 1 world champion. Road to Indy TV.
Engines come to life down here on pit lane. Let's send it back up to Greg Rakestraw as we get set to go here for Indy Lights Racing at the Grand Prix of Indianapolis.
Rob, thank you very much. This race will go some 30 laps. 60 minutes is the time limit on this first of 2 races for the Indy Lights Series. This weekend here is part of IndyCar Grand Prix weekend. 3 different race winners so far this year. At St. Petersburg, Zachary Clayman and Rinus VeeKay each won a race. At the Circuit of the Americas in Austin, Oliver Askew took both of those races. 18 total races in the Indy Lights Series presented by Cooper Tires this year. Of course, these cars will race again tomorrow here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We'll also see these same drivers and machines some 2 weeks from now. The always thrilling Freedom 100 run on Carb Day. These drivers will also take to the circuits at Road America, at Toronto, Mid-Ohio, more oval action at Gateway. We'll get a couple of races in Portland, and of course the season finale at Laguna Seca for these drivers as well. As far as the point standings are concerned, Oliver Askew with 2 wins and a 3rd place finish so far this year, leading the points battle. Rinus VeeKay in 2nd, Zachary Clayman in 3rd, Toby Sowery in 4th, Robert Mcginnis in 5th. So obviously Mcginnis has a chance to get a much higher standing in terms of the point totals coming into this race. And if these guys move as fast as Rob Howden moved from the start of the race grid up here to the booth, then these guys will be in great shape today. Hello, Rob.
I was on push to pass the entire time. I think I burned up some of my P2P for sure. You know what? This is a big race here for Robert Mcginnis, and I think that's the primary storyline for me. There's obviously drivers who have won races already this year. Rinus VeeKay, Oliver Askew, Zachary Clayman. This is an opportunity, though, for Robert Mcginnis to put himself in the win column, and his first start from pole position as well, Greg. That's going to be tough, I think. He's got to get in the right mindset. He's had Andretti. You know they've been coaching him up. We'll see how he does here.
You talk about push to pass in a joking manner coming up here to our second floor broadcast position, but push to pass will be used in this race. Tell us about it.
Huge, big, 50 horsepower. They get a certain amount of push to passes as do the IndyCar drivers. The difference between IndyCar and Indy Lights is you can only use push to pass as an offensive. You can't defend with it. So when they roll up the straightaway, either from turn 14 down to turn number 1 or up Hallman Boulevard, if you're the pole sitter and the guy's within 1.5 seconds, you're essentially a sit and duck to a certain extent. The guy that's pushing, the guy that's on the offensive, he gets the use of the push to pass.
1 to go sign given to all these drivers going down the front straightaway.
Obviously getting the weekend kicked off, but again the month of May as well. Just like the IndyCar drivers, the pilots here in the Indy Lights program looking forward to the Carb Day Freedom 100. USF 2000 and Indy Pro looking forward to the events at Lucas Oil Raceway and the Carb Night Classic. But again, you want to get this thing started in a big way. You think about last year, Greg, when Colton Herta swept the weekend in the Indy Lights here. He then moved on to win the Freedom, following in the footsteps of the success that Will Power had, of course, at the Grand Prix in the 500. If you can get this weekend off, this race here off with a win, the momentum rolls through the entire month.
Fans, if you've been with us all day long, it was qualifications in the morning. It is now racing for the rest of the afternoon with, of course, knockout qualifying for the NTT IndyCar Series coming your way during the 4 o'clock hour. These cars about to take to the green, then at 2:50 It is the USF 2000 first race of the weekend. At 3:40, it is the Indy Pro 2000 first race of 2 of the weekend.
Yeah, we're going to give you some wheel-to-wheel action to warm things up outside here for the afternoon here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Drivers working their way up here now through turn number 11 and 12. The pace car will duck on off real quick, get on the throttle, and head back to pit lane. And it now goes into the hands of this young driver from New York. And, of course, I'm talking about Robert Mcginnis, who qualifies on the pole. Coming off, Greg, what was a tremendous weekend for him, what I called his breakout weekend at the Circuit of the Americas, when he led for a time, battled for the lead, fought hard for a couple of podium finishes. Right now, he's about set to pace his first Indy Lights start. They'll work their way out of turn number 14. He'll climb onto the throttle pretty soon here. Here comes Mcginnis. He's on the inside. Your reigning Indy Pro champion on the outside. That's Rinus VeeKay, the American, and the Dutchman. They'll work their way onto the straightaway. We're underway. Green, green, green. Awesome start for Mcginnis. And look at VeeKay fall through the field, Greg. He's going to drop back at least 3 or 4 spots, maybe 5.
It is Askew to the outside of Mcginnis as they go to the inside of turn number 1. Able to hold his position is Mcginnis through turn number 1. And so far, these cars, pretty good spacing amongst them here going through the first couple of corners as they head towards the infield.
Top 3 were nose to tail. The excitement, I think, a little bit further back, and it seemed to me like Dalton Kellett and Zachary Clayman playing nice. They were side by side coming through 1 to 2. Clayman got on the throttle pretty quickly. Here's the first attack down in Holman Boulevard. You can see Askew going back and forth, left to right, trying to see if he could shake up his young teammate.
Again, Mcginnis, Askew, and Ryan Norman all running for Andretti Autosport. Cole and Clayman, teammates for Bellardi Racing. Malukas and Sowry, all a part of BN Racing. VeeKay and Kellett for Hunkos Racing. Those are the team affiliations of the 9 drivers in this event today.
Impressive to watch these drivers, Greg, of course, here in this opening lap. They don't have all that heat built into these Cooper tires yet, so the cars are going to be a bit sketchy. They're going to be a little longer of a braking zone. You can't rely on the tire to woe you up a little bit. So, again, Askew trying to get that big run down the straightaway. You get a huge one here, a big toe down. In fact, he'll close right up on Mcginnis. Mcginnis is going to go to the inside. Askew to the outside into 1. So a defensive move already for Mcginnis, but probably a good call. Otherwise, I think that maybe Askew may have went by.
So both the drivers that were in row 2 in Askew and Norman able to get by Rinus VeeKay. He currently checks in 4th. Mcginnis holding his lead position from the opening pole.
A little surprised that VeeKay had that much trouble getting spooled up. And a great start for Mcginnis. He did what he was supposed to do. Here comes a look for the lead again. No. That was Askew, tucked to the inside again, had a little look, want to fill the mirrors, make sure that Mcginnis knows he's there. Mcginnis and Askew and Norman, the 3 Andretti drivers, 1, 2, 3 as they come out of the S's through turns number 10 over to 11 now. Bit of a gap for Mcginnis here early on.
In 30-lap race. Quick look at the replay of the start for those of you around the grounds.
Ryan Norman having to take almost evasive maneuvers as he jumped on the throttle, and VeeKay just missed it. Norman actually able to fully capitalize, came to the right of the racetrack. He goes into P3, and once again, Norman with the quick time. Here goes Askew. He's going to bid for the lead to the inside. Late braking for Mcginnis and Askew. Will he hold on to the racetrack? He does.
It's one thing to make the pass. Can you hold on to it? And right now the answer for Askew is absolutely.
That was a big move to the inside. Now, can Mcginnis come back? That's the one thing I want to see here right now. Can Mcginnis get back by? Can he use that push to pass now that it's activated? Or will he? Will he hold on to push to pass, or will he use it? We'll see. 15 activations is what they get for push to pass, and I believe both on the front straightaway and the back straightaway.
And obviously, those are the best passing areas on the track, going into 1 and at the end of Holman Boulevard.
Oliver Askew trying to go 3 for 3. Remember, he swept the weekend in rounds 3 and 4. This is rounds 5 and 6 for Indy Lights. It's 3 and 4 for the other 2 categories. This program was part of the action at the IndyCar Classic at the Circuit of the Americas in Austin back in March. Those drivers absolutely loving that racetrack. And actually, the full schedule, Greg, they all love going to the Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. They love the Circuit of the Americas. Indianapolis as well. Indianapolis, they're loving to be here as well. They love Toronto. They love Road America. Just a fantastic schedule for Indy Lights this year.
Oliver Askew, the fastest lap of the race so far at 1:17.281. He currently has a lead of about 0.7 of a second over Mcginnis. Let's take a look at the decisive pass from a lap ago.
Just a good move to the inside. Had the push to pass, got the run with that extra 50 horsepower, ducked it to the inside, and you could see that Norman was potentially trying to see if he could get by Mcginnis as well, but Robert let it happen, make sure he wasn't going to give up another position, tuck back in behind Askew, and now they're trying to make it a two-driver breakaway because you can see here that Rinus VeeKay and the Juncos Racing Machine putting a lot of pressure now on the number 48 Orion Norman.
In other words, Norman's got to worry much more about his rearview mirrors than what he is seeing in front of him.
And that's always the case in racing. And the minute someone comes into your rear view, you have to kind of split that attention. You can't just be looking forward. You got to think a bit defense as well. Norman's going to need to have a couple of good sectors here if he wants to pull away from Rinus and get back after the charge to try to close up on Mcginnis.
Askew trying to make it 3 consecutive victories in the Indy Light Series. Again, his lead in the point standings was 6 coming into this 5th race of the Indy Light season. Again, they stay the same, 1, 2, 3, heading down into turn number 1. Good looking run here by Mcginnis.
That's what I wanted to see out of Robert Mcginnis, and let's see if Norman's able to attack as well. Indeed, there's the wing coming on the inside. They're side by side. I think that Norman probably gave up a little bit there and didn't want to take out the teammate, but I like to see that out of Robert Mcginnis. He was challenged, he responded, came back and did exactly the same thing, burned up probably 3 of his push-to-passes to get through, down to 10 now for push-to-pass. And look at this, they're on defensive further back. Norman trying to hold off a charging Rinus VeeKay.
So you're looking at cars 3, 4, and 5 behind Askew, currently in second. We'll get a better idea in terms of the lead that Mcginnis has built up as he comes back around through the front straightaway.
Askew doing a pretty good job to pull away from those drivers behind him, but again, as they close into the braking zone, you see a little brake lock up there, the right front for Ryan Norman. Got to watch that. You start locking that tire up too many times, and you're going to flat spot it, and at that point, you're really in trouble when you're trying to push the short braking zones of these cars. Big lead for Robert Mcginnis. He was able to pull away to a 1-second advantage now. That said, Askew still in push to pass, and he's using them. Down to 8 push to pass for him. Further back, Zachary Clay-Mandello, 1.4 seconds behind Malukas. He's got about half a second on Toby Sauer. They both have 11, like they're kind of waiting here a bit. There you go, Greg. Good replay. Almost a carbon copy. Maybe a little later, but that's about it.
And let's face it, at the various great circuits that you've talked about, there rarely, if anywhere, is a place where these cars can build up this much speed as they carry going into one here at IMS.
We got a side-by-side battle. We'll get back to that. Rinus VeeKay going at it with Ryan Norman. What a move there for VeeKay. He got to the inside in turn number 7, but didn't complete the pass until turn number 9. Textbook, and here comes David Malukas. He's going to pinch to the inside of 11. So Ryan Norman kind of got hung out to dry, got off the rhythm coming through 7, 8, and 9, and David Malukas in the BN Racing number 79 Dallara IL15 takes over that spot as well. So count VeeKay to 3rd, Malukas to 4th, and Ryan Norman back to 5th. He's got to get the mindset going again and get back in the rhythm.
But if you're Mcginnis, it's exactly what you want to see, and frankly, Oliver Askew as well. Let the guys behind you worry about each other. You guys can go run your race at 1 and 2.
Mcginnis resets a fast lap of the race, and this is crucial right now because Oliver Askew is using up his push to pass like crazy. Malukas used all of his to get into the fight. He's only got 3 more activations remaining. 10 for Mcginnis, only 6 for Askew. So Robert Mcginnis, we may see our 4th different winner of the 2019 season here in Indy Lights competition as Robert Mcginnis out of New York having a strong run here up front. Challenged early, but took that back. Drivers working their way back through the 7, 8, 9 combination again. You can see Mcginnis' solid lead. Rinus VeeKay. Here's that replay. Let's have a look at this, Greg. This is a beautiful move. The crisscross because Norman came back across the track, the crisscross to the apex. VK dives it right to the apex, knowing that if he can hold the outside, he's going to have back to the inside in turn number 9, gets the run through, and then really gets aggressive coming back across. That's a great pass, I think, there for Rinus VK.
That's also great car control by VK there as well.
And on the other side of the coin, patience and understanding for Ryan Norman. He probably could have forced the issue there, could have potentially got into VK a little bit, but instead tucks back in. Now, this is all this racing has allowed the Belardi car of Clayman to come up and the BN car of Sowery. They're right there.
And we're keeping our eye on the push to passes remaining as well. And Malukas, to battle his way to 4th, is down to 1, and we are less than a third of the way into this race.
I'm surprised by how much they burned him off. If you look back, 10 activations still for Mcginnis. He's out front. He's good.
I think you could say the competitive juices are flowing.
Well, as long as everybody's doing it, it's no big deal. But you got Zachary Clayman back there with 7 still to go, and he's on the rear bumper or the rear wing rather of Norman. So he's got 7 to go. If that car is good enough, we could see Clayman work his way potentially up into the podium as well.
So if you are Robert Mcginnis, do you want the good news or the good news? You're leading by a second and a half, and you've got as many push to passes left with 10 out of 15, with still more than 20 laps left to go in this feature.
And for me, it's one of those, you watch a race storyline kind of develop, and you finally realize when the guys that are trying to chase the leader kind of give up on that challenge. Unless we get something of a full course yellow, because right now we've got a 1.7 second gap. Oliver Askew no longer in the window to use his push to pass. At this point, Robert Mcginnis can knock these fast laps down and continue to pull away. But again, sooner or later, the guys in the back say, you know what, we're racing for second. And that's getting pretty close right now. Then again, all it takes is a full course yellow to bunch everybody back up.
Those of you watching on the video board, you're kind of seeing the cars 3 through 7 of this 9-car field, and at the timing stripe, there was less than 3 seconds that separated those 5 cars. And there's the leader's car of Mcginnis, native of New York. Askew right behind him, Florida native, now residing in Jupiter, Florida. And then the tightly bunched cars going 3 through 7, preparing to head back in to what would be turns 12 and 13 in this road course configuration.
Greg, you and I talked during the USF 2000 qualifying run. We talked about Miller Vinatieri Racing. Adam Vinatieri is here, and he's actually going to be in the flag stand for the start of the USF 2000 race as our honorary starter. He's going to wave the green flag for USF 2000. Great to have Adam here with us this weekend.
Great to still have Adam with the Indianapolis Colts after all these years.
All right. I'd like to see how things develop here now. Rinus VK just turned the fast lap of the race. It's interesting when a driver is fast early, because sometimes if you're too fast early, you may have gone a little higher on the tire pressure, whatever it may be, a little more aggressive to get the heat built into those tires to give you the grip you need, the mechanical grip, over the first half of the race. Mcginnis has been the guy setting fast laps. VK now just went about it. He dropped to 1:16.232, was 2 cents quicker, 2 tenths of a second quicker last time by, but Mcginnis could be on a bit of a cruise control as well. He's got 1.7 seconds. Greg, as long as he maintains over top of that 1.5, no one's going to be able to use push to pass to get back up to him.
Frankly, it's an equal distance from first to second and then second to third at this point. Best battle on the racetrack again, kind of in that middle group between 3 and 7 right now.
David Malukas is out of push to pass. That's, I think, a key thing now. The driver, the number 79, has used up all his available push to pass. As you had said, we're not even to the halfway point. We're not even or just to the third point now, the third pole, and he's out of push to pass. Ryan Norman's only got 3 left. So Norman, half second back, kind of has to go to work here now.
And at the front of the field, Mcginnis has extended that lead by about a tenth of a second. So, again, it's too early to be in cruise control mode for this race yet, but he is in a very advantageous position.
Again, the only win in his career thus far on the road to Indy was a couple of years ago. I believe the 2017 Grand Prix of St. Petersburg, able to win the second end of a USF 2000 season opener. Had some good runs ever since. He's had a ton of podiums, but never another win. And to be able to get one here in Indy Lights, this would totally change, I think, his expectations in this program as well. Robert kind of came in saying to himself, you know what, this is a 2-year deal. I'm going to learn this race car. Ideally, he'll still do that. But, you know, when you put yourself into a race win, especially to start a weekend, knowing you could potentially do it again and do the double, then you start thinking about the championship chase. And with the Freedom 100 coming up and then the event that we'll have in late June at Road America, you start getting early season wins and just kind of starts changing the way you think about your 2019 program.
Again, at the yard of bricks, the lead now has grown to 2 seconds for Mcginnis, then another 1.5 seconds back to Rinus VK, then 1.5 seconds or 3/4 to Malukas in 4th. Right now, the closest spots on the track, 4 and 5, Malukas to Norman. And again, Norman has just 3 push-to-pass opportunities left, but that's 3 more than the car in front of him.
Right now I'm watching Malukas' times and Norman's times. Malukas was quicker by 0.2 seconds last time they came by. And that's, Norman needs to be he's got to be a 1/10 quicker right now, I think, to close up. You don't want to burn off those 3 push-to-pass. It'll be gone quickly. So again, they worked their way out of the turn 7 corner. That's that right-hander, rather left-hander at the end of Holman Boulevard that leads into the S's section, 7, 8, and 9. 5 push-to-pass for Clayman, 6 for Sowery, 8 for Dalton Kellett. That is 6th, 7th, and 8th in the order. For Oliver Askew, Greg, he doesn't need to win this. He would love to go 3 for 3, but he's your point leader coming in. He's had a couple of great races. Robert Mcginnis has a DNF, as he does, from St. Petersburg. So again, a 2nd place finish here is solid.
And people may wonder the value of points racing or the points championship at this level. Let's remind those just how important that is for what 2020 would look like for one of those drivers being the 2019 Indy Lights champ.
Yeah, every one of these drivers wants to win as many races as they can, but they'll trade every race win to get the championship because the title winner in Indy Lights wins a 3-race program to race 3 races in the NTT IndyCar Series, including the Indianapolis 500. That program worth almost $1 million. So, again, that's kind of the capper of this Road to Indy presented by Cooper Tires, which really does have that unprecedented support of the drivers in terms of giving them these scholarships. Nowhere else in open wheel racing in the world do they have the scholarships that make sure that the champions go to the next level.
And so that's why second place could be a very good day at the office for Oliver Askew.
Most definitely. You take all the points you possibly can. Robert Mcginnis on pole, that's a bonus point. He's, of course, going to try to get the fast lap of the race. That's another bonus point as well. So Mcginnis just having one of those awesome days, very similar to what Oliver Askew had at the Circuit of the Americas back on the 2nd weekend of March.
Mcginnis has once again set the fastest lap of the race, just past 1 minute and 16 seconds, and his lead has now grown to 2.6 seconds over Askew.
He's just knocking out the laps right now. The speed and the pace that Robert Mcginnis is showing, this is the best I have seen him drive in his entire Road to Indy career, and this is when you want to have it happen, when you get to the Indy Lights program. And he's done some off-season racing. They raced in Asia. He and on Rinus VK went and did the Asian F3 series. Rinus actually winning the championship, but some more experience for Robert. He ran the MRF Challenge in India, the off-season before. Lots of seat time to be able to get into this car and make that quick transition.
For those of you watching on the video boards, David Malukas is the driver that is currently on your screen. Hails from the Chicago area. And again, he is the driver that has someone closest in the rearview mirror to him on the track. The gap last time by between Malukas in 4th, Norman in 5th, was about 0.8 seconds.
Here's an interesting observation. Last year we debuted the new Tatis PM18 in the Indy Pro 2000 series, and that car significantly quicker, 3 to 4 seconds faster than its predecessor. Every driver would tell you that car became such a great training tool to be able to move to Indy Lights. The car is much quicker, much more nimble, more agile, similar to the Dallara IL-15. Well, look at the grid right now. Look at the lineup. Mcginnis, Askew, VK, Malukas, top 4 drivers. They were all in that PM18 in Indy Pro last year. The drivers who were in the Indy Lights category, Clayman and Kellett and Norman behind them right now. So I'm not saying that's any indication of the development, but it just says how good that PM18, how good the Indy Pro car is at developing the talent to move to Indy Lights.
Norman in the 48 that's on your screen as we speak, able to shave a couple of tenths off of the lead, trying to track down the man in fourth place in Malukas. And again, much as we said for Oliver Askew that being in second is a good day at the office, every point matters in this series. So you may say, what's the difference in fifth and fourth? It might be $1 million at the end of the year.
Well, let me tell you this story. You got to go back to the battle, the incredible battle between Gabby Chavez and Jack Harvey for the championship in Indy Lights. They went to the finale at Sonoma Raceway. When it was all said and done, they were tied in points. They both had the same amount of wins, and Gabby Chavez won the scholarship based on second-place finishes. All it would have taken was one pole, one more fast lap of the race, and that one driver would have won.
That lead down to less than half a second, and there you see the move. The move was made.
Ryan Norman gets by to take over the fourth spot from David Malukas. He used at least one or two more push to pass. Ryan Norman has one left. But again, Malukas falling back into the fifth spot. But you called it, Greg. Norman was closing up about 1 to 2/10 of a second a lap. David Malukas in the 75 will do the same thing that Robert Mcginnis did early. Settle back in, reset the mind, and go back to work. He's got Zachary Clayman behind him by about a sec. Well, at one point was 1.7 seconds. I'm going to say it's probably about maybe 6 or 7 tenths now as they come back around. Good job for Norman to work his way back up. It hasn't been the start that Norman wanted. Coming off in his second season last year for Andretti Autosport, he won at Gateway Motorsports Park in an epic battle against Colton Herta. Followed that up with a pole position at Portland the following weekend. We kind of figured he would come out of the box strongly here, and he did in the opening practice session at St. Petersburg, but it just didn't translate into success come race time.
The math will tell you what your eyes had already confirmed to you. That was a fast lap that Ryan Norman just turned. He had the fastest lap of the race in getting around Malukas to get into fourth.
That's an interesting pickup there. 115.915, quicker than Mcginnis. And again, that would be interesting for the championship as well. Mcginnis, we talked about having that fast lap. What happens if he wins this and doesn't get the fast lap? You need that bonus point. These guys are fighting for every point they can possibly get.
By the way, back up towards the front of the field, Mcginnis about a 2.5 second lead over Askew, then another 2.5 seconds back to VK, then 2.5 seconds back to the gentleman you see on your screen in Ryan Norman. So again, we have focused on this battle here because it has been the best battle on the track for the last few laps, as we are past the halfway point already in this 30-lap first of 2 Indy Lights races over the weekend here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Really interested in seeing if Norman can keep backing up his speed at 116.1. He was 4 tenths quicker than Rinus VK. He's back by 2.3 with 13 laps to go. Norman still coming on strong. He and Askew turning the same lap times. Mcginnis down to a 115.987. Can Norman potentially close up to Rinus VK? Rinus not in a position to use push to pass to close on Askew, and just one more left for Norman.
Mcginnis last year finished 5th in what is now the Indy Pro 2000 Series. You referenced he had one win in 2017 for Team Pelfrey in the USF 2000 Series. We'll see each of those series coming up in our next 2 races here this afternoon before the NTT IndyCar Series cars have their qualifying rounds.
Again, 3 races today, 3 tomorrow for everyone here on the road to Indy. The Indy Lights Grand Prix of Indianapolis on track now. We have 17 laps down, 13 laps remaining for Robert Mcginnis, who looks to score his first win in Indy Lights competition. A couple years in USF 2000, jumped straight to the Indy Pro 2000 Series, and then straight to Indy Lights here this year. The opportunity coming to run with Andretti Autosport, and not many times you say no when Andretti Autosport knocks on the door.
Good things have been happening if you've run for Andretti here at 16th and Georgetown over the last few years. We focus so much on Askew, and understandably so, in terms of sweeping both races at the Circuit of the Americas a couple of months ago. Well, Mcginnis was on the podium at the end of both of those races. Third in race number 1, second in race number 2.
And he earned those positions as well. He raced hard. A lot of times he was elbows up. They were doing over-under passes. The straightaway is so long at COTA that we had 2 activation areas. So a driver would take the push to pass and get by you, and then you would get to the next activation area. You'd use a push to pass, and you'd make the move. We had over-under passes, and Mcginnis really earned those 2 podium positions. As I said, he is running extremely well and seems very suited to be within that Andretti Autosport family. And another thing, he's been at all the other races as well. He went to he's going to Long Beach. He went to Barber. He's spending time with the team to when they're going to IndyCar races. He's listening to the feedback. He's in on debriefs. That's so valuable to a young driver.
By the way, the gap is staying very consistent from 1 to 2, about 2.5 seconds. Bit of a wider gap starting to open up between 2 and 3. Askew and VK, that lead is about 3 seconds worth. And the car we're focusing on now is Toby Sowry, native of England. He's currently running in 7th.
Toby's a driver who came over on a very last-minute deal to run at the Grand Prix of St. Petersburg and did such a tremendous job there getting on the podium that it kind of was a race-by-race deal. They said, hey, let's go to COTA. And he did a fantastic job at COTA, had a couple of minor issues with the car, but again, showed what he's worth. But we have him back here this weekend, and I believe we'll have him for the Freedom 100 as well, which is exciting. I'm not sure it'll be a full season or not, but Toby Sowry, definitely a very talented young British driver.
Zachary Clayman taking a look at the number 13 car, and again, he is the driver in this field that does have NTT IndyCar Series experience, kind of having bounced back and forth between these 2 top levels of the sport here in North America over the last few years.
19th last year in the Indianapolis 500 as well. Clayman DeMello won the first race of the season. I think everybody wondered whether or not it could be one of those deals where he was just going to go on a tear and win a bunch of races. Wasn't able to back it up, actually, in race number 2, as Rinus VK took that victory after an incident between he and Askew in the opening couple of corners, put Askew into the wall. But they've struggled here a bit this weekend, no doubt about it. The Bilardi Auto Racing guys trying to find that magic window. They've stepped it up a little bit. He's running P6 right now. He's about a tenth quicker than Malukas, back by less than a second, so potentially still a top 5. We may see ourselves with a battle for that 5th position there, Greg.
Correct. That is the closest battle on the track right now, just about a second gap between Malukas in 5th and Clayman in 6th. Again, you're getting the in-car view for those of you watching on the video boards of Oliver Askew. That blur in front of him, his teammate in Mcginnis, who has been some 2.5 seconds clear of him seemingly for the last 10 laps, as we're looking at now a little less than 10 laps to go.
If you want to challenge a young driver to see what they're made of, put them on the pole position at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway with a bunch of race winners behind them as a rookie, and you'll see. And right now, Mcginnis has not flinched at all. In fact, he was passed early. Oliver Askew was able to get by, take over the lead, and another driver may have settled into second. Mcginnis, though, got the bit between his teeth and went at it and was able to essentially pull a carbon copy move with that dive bomb to the inside of turn 1 to take over the lead. And since then, he's stretched out to what is now a 2.5-second advantage.
Go back briefly to that battle for 5th and 6th we reference as the closest on the track, Malukas and Clayman. Malukas, as we've documented, is out of push-to-pass opportunities. Clayman does have a couple, so he may have the best chance of trying to get back into that 5th position.
It's interesting to watch as well. Ryan Norman chip away at the gap between he and Rinus VK. That would be the battle for the final position on the podium. VK had a 2.4-second advantage just a couple of laps ago. It's down to 1.6 now as Norman just chipping away a tenth, 2/10, 3/10 at a time. 1.6 seconds with 9 laps remaining here in the first of 2 Indy Lights main events. It's part of this IndyCar GP weekend.
You see 1, 2, 3, 4 on your screen. And the intervals remaining the same, about 2.5 seconds. Ryan Norman has just set another fastest lap for the race.
0.4 of a second closer.
And he's now with about a second and 2/10 behind VK for third. Does he have time to catch him?
He definitely has time. When you're Well, he's 4/10 quicker that last time. At 1.2 back, we're talking 3 laps. Plus, he has that push to pass. He's got to catch, plan his move, use the push to pass, and go by immediately. You can't let Rinus VeeKay set up for it and all of a sudden go on the defensive. He's got to get that run he needs onto Hulman Boulevard and leverage that push to pass and just go for it. 1.2 now the gap between third and fourth. The podium for Rinus VeeKay potentially in jeopardy as Norman wants to make it an all-Andretti top 3. Clayman, again, closes within 2/10 more on Malukas. He's down to 0.7 of a second. We could have battles for third and for fifth before we're all said and done. USF 2000 will follow, followed by Indy Pro 2000s. We give you 3 Road to Indy races today, 3 tomorrow as well, ahead of the IndyCar event. A lot of people came out, Greg, for the autograph session for Indy Lights. The opportunity to see the future stars. Last year, if you were at that autograph session, you would have been meeting Colton Herta and Pato O'Ward, and now you're looking at meeting Robert Mcginnis and Oliver Askew and Rinus VeeKay and Ryan Norman and David Malukas.
What's got to be going through the mind of Robert Mcginnis? This would be the most important win of a young racing career.
You know, he's obviously getting talked to on the radio. They've got a lot of great voices there at Andretti that'll be able to help him out, whether it's the spotter or the engineer. This is one of those deals where they may just leave him alone. Hey, hit your marks. Everything you're doing is perfect. Just do exactly what you're doing right now. You've got this. You're 2.6 seconds up. You're faster than Oliver. Just keep knocking down the laps. VeeKay turned up the wick a little bit, a 1:16.1. That's one of his best laps in the last couple of circuits. That extended his gap to Norman to 1.4. Clayman grabbing another 10th on Malukas, but with, 6 or 7 laps remaining, this is getting a little tight here for Clayman as well.
Mcginnis stretching that lead over Askew from first to second. And the gap from second to third, Askew to VeeKay, is nearing 4 seconds at this point. Norman trying to get on that podium is about 1.4 seconds back of VeeKay. There you see a good look. That's Clayman. And that's Malukas, and that is a pass for position. Clayman jumping up to 5th place.
That's a big lap for Clayman. He was 0.4 of a second quicker and had to use that, then used one of his push to pass as well. Very good capitalization of the tools that he had at his disposal. Fantastic run there for Clayman. That puts him into the 5th position. Now, I don't think Malukas has anything for him. There's no push to pass whatsoever. We're coming around to 5 laps to go, I believe. But Zachary Clayman in the Belardi Auto Racing red and white number 13 machine back to P5. Stopped the bleeding a little bit of what has been a tough weekend so far.
Take a look at the replay, and again, using that long straightaway to set up a pass going into turn number 1.
And again, got, the lap that we saw where he was 0.4 of a second quicker, that was before he got the run onto the straightaway. That's the timing stripe. He gets in there, gets that big pull, gets the good lap, and then again, the full toe all the way down into turn number 1.
5 laps remaining.
2.548 seconds the lead for Robert Mcginnis, looking squarely at his first Indy Lights victory. A rookie driver in the program, just a 1 year of Indy Pro 2000 last year after 2.5 seasons of USF 2000. Rinus VeeKay trying to hold on to that position for Juncos Racing in the top 3 because Andretti, again, so good here. 1st, 2nd, and 4th in the order.
All of these car and drivers will be back out tomorrow afternoon for a second race of the weekend. And you will see these same car and driver combinations 2 weeks from today. The always entertaining Freedom 100, 40 laps around the 2.5-mile oval here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, carving out their own slice of the Carb Day tradition.
No shortage of excitement in that event at all. We've had 3-wide, 4-wide finishes.
Yeah, the 4-wide finish immediately came to mind from a couple of years ago.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. We had 3-wide a year after that, I think, or 2 years after that. It's just these cars set themselves up for it. These drivers respect each other. It was that 4-wide race when they were essentially 3-wide, 2-wide, 2x2, 2x3 coming through there. Oh, man, just incredible to watch. Be definitely one of the highlights of Peter Dempsey's career.
Clayman in 5th. Malukas trailing him in 6th. Getting a look on the video board at Rinus VeeKay. Currently in 3rd. He's got Norman edging closer to him. That gap from 3rd to 4th, about 1.6 seconds.
Now, Rinus is doing everything he needs to do right now in the Soul Red Mazda. He's got that scholarship, of course, for winning the Indy Pro Championship last year, but can't ask for much more from him because just an absolutely impressive run. He was about a 10th quicker than Norman last time by, gave himself a bit of room. Laps winding down.
Norman started this race in the position he currently is in now, which would be 4th or outside of row number 2. VeeKay began this race on the front row, but and had troubles at the starting quickly. Had to slide back to 4th.
Robert Mcginnis leading, couple of laps remaining. Oliver Askew in 2nd. Rinus VeeKay 3rd. Ryan Norman 4th. Zachary Clayman DeMello in the top 5. David Malukas runs in 6th. Toby Sowery in 7th. Dalton Kellett in 8th. And Lucas Cole in the 9th position. 2.6 seconds, the lead for Robert Mcginnis. New York, New York, he calls home.
You're seeing the leaders coming down Holman Boulevard. Looking at cars 3 and 4 on the video boards. Norman currently in 4th. May not be close enough to have a great chance of getting onto that podium and sliding into 3rd place.
He's only got the one push to pass still to use. He'll definitely use it up soon, but with the laps winding down and Rinus VeeKay turning very good laps in the number 21. 1:15.8 for VeeKay, 1:15.9 for Norman last time by, so a 1/10 of a second quicker for VeeKay, extending that little cushion that he has ever so slightly.
Leader coming down the front straight away, completing his 28th lap.
White flag will be shown next time by. What a performance thus far for Robert Mcginnis. But this is the lap. These next two, Craig, when he'll be listening for every little twing and twang in the engine, wants to make sure the exhaust note sounds good.
I think he'll also be hearing his own heartbeat.
Good possibility. Take your hand off the wheel a little bit to see if you got any kind of stray. Do I have a tire potentially going down? A little adjustment to the suspension there as Oliver Askew reaching down to adjust one of the tools in the car. Quicker by 0.2 of a second last time by was Oliver Askew. Gets it down to 2.4 seconds. But this has been all Robert Mcginnis since he took the lead back from Oliver Askew, who passed early. Big lead for Mcginnis, but a thing about racing is you never know. Overcook a corner, just miss a turn in, whatever it may be. Right now, though, he has got it handled onto the straightaway with the white flag being shown here at start-finish.
Is the final lap a victory lap for Robert Mcginnis? Looking for his first win in 5 tries this year in the Indy Light Series presented by Cooper Tires. But a win would be his 3rd successive podium after going 3rd and 2nd last time out at the Circuit of the Americas.
It's been 2 years since he has won here on the road to Indy, and that coming in the opening round of the 2017 season in the USF 2000 program. Mcginnis now rolling down Holman Boulevard into turn number 7. Askew resetting fast lap of the race, a 1:15.6953, and that bonus point for Askew. Think about that for the championship. Huge for him to get that bonus point, steal it away from Robert. Mcginnis, though, this is his opportunity now as he comes out of turn 11 to 12.
The first of 2 races this weekend for the Indy Lights Series. A couple of more corners, and then nothing but air and opportunity in front of Robert Mcginnis.
He'll soak this one in right now, folks. He's going to weave it down the straightaway. Robert Mcginnis, victorious at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in the first of 2 Indy Lights races. Double checkers being thrown here at the Yard of Bricks. A very happy Andretti Autosport crew. First, second, and fourth. Rinus VK, the interloper in there, as he finishes third for Juncos Racing. But look at the emotion for Robert Mcginnis. This will take a huge weight off his shoulders and will give him so much confidence and momentum here to begin the month of May. Because remember, I guarantee you, he looks back at this Andretti crew and says, hey, Colton Herta won all three of these races. I'm off to the first start of this one.
At the age of 19, he can now say he is a winner at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
His teammate Ryan Norman coming up to give him a high five, and Mcginnis cruising down Holman Boulevard. Yeah, the emotions starting to come out. It's the realization he got the job done. He's waving to some of the fans out on the spectator mounds down in turn 7, 8, and 9. This is that cool-down lap. A lot of times in the cool-down lap, because the car doesn't like going that slow, the steering wheel's pretty heavy. But once you've won, not a lot of weight on your shoulders. He'll be thrilled when he gets down here and up to the podium here at Indy.
Young man, you can take the time to wave to every individual fan if you'd like to. You've earned it with that impressive performance today. And, of course, we'll talk to our top finishers coming up here in just a matter of moments.
Take this, too. 4 different winners here in 2019 in Indy Lights. That is unbelievable. Rinus VK, of course, he and Zachary Clayman winning at the Grand Prix of St. Petersburg. Oliver Askew sweeping at the Circuit of the Americas. And now Robert Mcginnis adds his name as the 4th winner here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. And there'll be a lot of emotion when he gets out of the car. I know that when he won at St. Petersburg, he was absolutely fired up, and I guarantee you it'll be a bit of the same. Emotional driver who has developed in leaps and bounds over the last year and a half. Oh, yeah, he's fired up already. The team's going to be waiting for him down here. And he is fired up. Mcginnis brings it nice and slowly down here in front of the photographers that wait for him, and of course all the series officials. Michael Andretti taking the opportunity to come in and congratulate his drivers. He's done a little bit of that over the last couple of years. Last year, of course, with Colton Herta. Last year as well with Pato O'Ward. There's Robert's dad coming in, his brother George as well.
Askew and VK came in 1 and 2 in the points, so second and third place finishes. Solid days for both of those drivers.
Mcginnis getting the helmet off. Again, of course, one of those special moments for a driver, getting to celebrate and kind of take it all in. Won his only race on the road to Indy in USF 2000, but he'll climb out of this Dallara IL-15 as a winner in Indy Lights here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Talking about Robert Mcginnis' first win, also his first pole, and it just so happens to happen on the grounds of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We'll let him celebrate a little bit more. Robert, how much more special is this day because you just scored your first Indy Lights win on the grounds of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway?
This is insane. I can't believe we just won that. It's out of control. No, I mean, it's super special. I mean, your first Lights win, first win in a few years, so I couldn't be happier. I can't thank the series, can't thank Cooper Tires, and I really can't thank CyberArk, Palo Alto Networks, Optiv, SailPoint, and of course Andretti Autosport for everything they've done for me. And no, this is insane.
When we talked before the race today, you told me that time on the IndyCar timing stands really helped you learn feedback and how to give quality feedback. What feedback did you give after qualifying that helped your car today?
I think the one thing I did learn from the IndyCar guys is how clear and concise everything is. And, you know, I can't thank Andretti Autosport again enough for that opportunity. And yeah, I mean, I just came back and said, you know, let's make a couple changes to make the tires last, but this car is awesome, and they've given me an awesome race car all weekend long. I couldn't be happier.
And there's another dominant day here at the IMS Road Course by Andretti Autosport. They've now won the last 5 of 6 races here.